Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Lou Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering of the INE Network, Inspiration and Encouragement Network. Thank you for sitting in. If you're on my Google Plus account or sitting over on YouTube, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a killer day, long week, lots of things, lots of wonderful things happening, but it's kind of time to sit down and talk about some concepts that I hope will help you. We've been a circle of like-minded artistic, creative people now since 1983. We've been going at this a long time, and we've used technology with webinars for about the last 8 or 9 years, and so learning how to work with what's here and technology changes is what we've been struggling with for a very long time. If our INE Network's purpose is to discover that you have some talent, do whatever it takes to develop that talent, hopefully at some point master something, and then learn how to share what you've mastered. To me, that's a really good format for dealing with your life's gift that God has given you. And I enjoy that so much. I've had some amazing meetings, one last night at the university, and then we met last night with the Parent Development Council. They're building some kind of an organization that will allow parents to have access to state, government, religious, and educational circumstances and concepts that will help them raise their family. And it was, God, it was eventful. It was such a bright-minded bunch of people there, and it was so fun to mix with them and get some ideas and move forward with that. But then today I took four of the university officials up for the tour of the collection with Jack Solomon. And my friend has $40 million worth of art, and he's getting ready to donate it somewhere and place it someplace. And it looks like it might be this organization. We have a university here in our valley. And all four of these people have leadership positions with the art segment of the university, and it was so fun to have them bump into. This is not stuff they've ever seen in many cases. It was all, it was so fun to kind of share that moment and that time with them, and listen one more time to my friend's stories about how he's acquired all this graphic art that he has in his life. It's just amazing. So as we get together tonight and talk again about this entire month of January has been around aiming your life, trying to figure out what is it that I should be doing with the rest of my precious breaths I have left. And tonight we kind of finished that series with a concept that I think aims at the most important human characteristic there is attitude. So let's get busy. I'll open up the screen share. Welcome to all of you who are here tonight and come and sit in and participate. I appreciate everybody's participation a great deal, because without you there wouldn't be any reason to do this silly get together. On human engineering circumstances, we talk often about attitude, and particularly positive attitudes. And as I started to go into this particular series this year, I decided to kind of shift it a little, because there's a side of positive attitude that not everyone thinks about or pays a whole lot of attention to. A negative thinker sees a difficulty in every opportunity. A positive thinker sees an opportunity in every difficulty. So you really have just an amazing subtle shift in your attitude changes the potential for everything in your life. And seeing that and understanding that that's wherein opportunities lie is this just a slight reversal or shift of how you see difficulties as opposed to how a positive thinker will see those difficulties. It should come across fairly quickly to most people that the difference between a good day and a bad day is just your attitude. And it's such a profound thing to sit back and go, yeah, that's right. And seeing and understanding that our attitude about how things are excuse me, largely determines how things turn out. So the question then becomes, can a person really control their circumstances? Thus far in your life, have you largely directed things in your life, or have you just reacted to whatever's come along? How your attitude is about how you live also controls the possibilities. And I personally cannot deal with life without some degree of control of my circumstances. Trying to get into a position where it's gradually better seems to me to be so much better way to take on life than just allowing everything to happen. And as I thought about the show and the program tonight and kind of what I wanted to talk about and why aim the rest of your life, how to improve that, I want to concentrate tonight more on the kind of people you hang out with. It seems to me that the only chance you have in life is to have people around you that help sustain you. And if you don't have those kind of people, then you've got to be able to shift the gears dramatically so and get beyond that kind of circumstance. And the whole concept of INE Network, I got to brag about you guys so much today, because none of these people that were in this presentation have ever heard of INE Network. They're all artists, all artistic people, and very educated people, but they didn't know up to now that we even existed. And yet I can point to any concept in human existence, and those around you that are sustaining and uplifting individuals give that concept actually a chance of working. So if you got a winner's edge, is not in a gifted birth, not in a high IQ, or even in talent. The winner's edge is all in attitude, not aptitude. Attitude is the primary criterion for success. There are two things that will define you in your life: your patience when you have nothing, and your attitude when you have everything. It was so interesting to go through and pull concepts off the internet that fit with this idea of how my attitude is kind of how my life goes. And when you can see that how you look at it and what you're concentrating on really doesn't matter what people say. So if you take a second tonight for a minute and think back through the lives of people that have really helped you a lot, and go way back, go clear back into your youth, and remember, try and recall people that inspired you, people that uplifted you, people that helped you at particular times in your life. Mine was Garth Batty was our scoutmaster. And I was 12 years old, and I moved to a new town, and I felt very alone. And this guy just was our leader. He was just an incredibly good man and leaned into his job with a great deal of giving tremendous amount of time and availability and access, and Garth just changed the course of my life for me. I up to that time, I'd never really done anything with leadership. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know anything that happened with it or effectiveness of it. But I was given some roles, some things to do in a leadership capacity, and the more I did it, the better I liked it. And so I just kind of moved in that direction, and I feel like most of us do that with our lives. If we like something, we're going to do more with it, and if we can't get anything we like chewing on, we're not likely to swallow it. And so as I presented the last 3 sessions, with beginning with the end in mind and looking forward to possibly how are these next few years going to go, the shift in vision, the shift in thinking, where you go to the other end of your life and make up how it will end, and then begin to formulate that as your dream and the possibilities of your dreaming, boy, that changes the game. Especially if you fall in love with a dream. You can see your way of saying, I got to get clear to the other end of your life. Your last breath, you get to say, I used my talent, I developed my talent, I shared it to the nth degree, to the best of my ability. And I played with the marketplace with that talent and had a great time doing it. How can you die and have done any better than that? But I don't know of any better thing to do. And the measurement of money and status and success and all that stuff has so little to do with that end result. And if you consider the idea that maybe this is a skill, there's an attitude skill of excellence, of doing better, of accomplishing more, of trying to get your life in a better position, that kind of goes on all the time. But we're the ones that control that. We are either hell-bent on digging it out and doing something with it, or we ignore it, or a gentle blend of both. Because life really is about what you're creating yourself into being. You become what you most think about. One of my favorite people in my life is Elbert Hubbard, the inventor of the coupon selling tactic. Greatest mistake you can make in life is to continually be afraid you will make one. This is etched in the sidewalk up in Aurora, East Aurora. Everywhere in that city they've got something about Elbert Hubbard. A great attitude becomes a great day, which becomes a great month, which becomes a great year, which becomes a great life. This is it. This is it. How your general days go is largely how you're going to end up with what. And can you hone that? Can you sharpen that? Can you grow and cultivate the skill of a little better attitude? And won't that then make it a little bit more often a great day and a little bit more often a great month? The only disability in life is a bad attitude. My brother-in-law Chris is working the phones and starting to learn some things to try and help the company, and it's quite an interesting thing to be on the front end of the phone reaction and interaction with our customers and with our clients and patrons and friends. And God, it's uplifting. It is. Most people are in our circle are just such great people out there, and Chris constantly is one of his greatest ideas that he passes around and shares is there's always a way. There is always a way. You cannot let your attitude drift into the side of things won't work. It needs to constantly be a side that it will work. Real, genuine people don't come around too often. If you find somebody real enough to stay true, keep them close. Isn't it sad that most genuine people don't come around too often? I think that's just kind of a statement of humanity. It ought to be everyone that comes around is genuine, but it is a little difficult to find that. And if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. But this mixture of people, I've just thought so much about it this week, that the cultivation of the relationships around you is what sustains the attitude. It may be where our attitude even comes from. The majority of the influence. I know when we have a class here at the company and we get this to teach over at Keith Holmes' studio, the circle around Keith is so supportive and so uplifting. And people come here and spend a week with us. They don't want to go home. They're going after their talent. They're trying to develop their skills, take on something rather challenging, and yet they get a lot of sustaining support. And honest to gosh, by Friday, they don't want to go home, because that's what we all want. So be picky. Think about it. Look at your personal circle and see who in your circle is just constantly raising hell with things, and or those that are really strongly supportive. Because personalities, words, traits do rub off naturally. And for anybody that says, oh, that just can't be, yeah, this has to be. It's the only way it works. So now I want you to think a little bit why do they inspire you? What about their lives and their mix with your life was a degree of inspiration? This is a little tricky. This is not something that's easy to sort out, but the why is the element that makes everything work. It's like the gears in a watch. If their gears are off, or gears in the transmission or a motor, if there's a broken tooth or there's something out of alignment or something's bent or warped, it's just the whole thing doesn't work. And that's true for each of us as well. And staying close to the inspiration that you find in your life, and doing a good job with that is really worthwhile. And I kind of think that's the result that I like most in my own circumstance. You just flat can't hang out with negative people and expect a positive life. Now, this is a list I saw on ways to change your attitude, and I thought I'd run through it, because the development of positive thinking. There was a lady last night who's just launched a brand new magazine, and we were visiting with her for a while, and she said that she felt like there just wasn't a lot of resources around her, and so she started to pull positive thinking into her own circumstance. And in this last couple of years, it's just dramatically changed her own position, because she started thinking in the way that thoughts are things. Once you start going in that direction, then things that are negative begin to shift. And having a passion towards your work, learning to love people around you, thinking good about yourself, and learn to excuse and forgive people, and do continuous assessment by yourself. These are journal things, guys. This journaling of how you're doing with your life is such a powerful tool. And our new devices, our cell phones in particular, are just a slam dunk for moving something into a journal that then begins to influence your life. And that's how I've done it. Tam has forever picked up on the concept of traveling in good company, and that you need to kind of control and interact with the circumstance, but when you find people that you just absolutely enjoy being around, try and keep that going. I found this slide and I just couldn't resist. I am going to play with creativity fluid a bunch. I thought there's some goat juice here somewhere, some margarita in there at some place. And if you see an idea like that, or then this one, I saw this as well. I'm allergic to negative people. You guys all know I love buttons. There's just a lot there. But why not play with more of this and then begin to really try and shift the gears for your life so that how it is today with your as-is world is not how it is tomorrow, okay? Surround yourself with people who believe in your dreams and then keep going. Keep struggling in that direction. I got to introduce my books today again. Plan or no plan. Having a business plan in the world of things that people want is huge difference. It means you basically know what you're doing or you don't have much of a clue. And counting your blessing, not your troubles, is as old as the hills. But it works. It works when we see things with the potential around us instead of all the negative. The great blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach, but we shut our eyes, and like people in the dark, we fall foul upon the very thing we searched for without finding it. Notice the date on this tender quote. Apparently, it's been an issue for a very long time. Your mind is the garden of your thoughts, and they're the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. All of these would look really good engraved, wouldn't they? And stop wishing and start doing. I want to show you now a sequence that I've done called The Ordinary Miracle. And I gotta go find it here. Where did I leave it? Well, how am I going to deal with this? I gotta get up to that page, and then there it is right there. Hello there, my name is Lou Jensen, and I prepared a special bonus feature to try and help those of you who are getting started with us to maybe find your way. Probably the most dominant question I get asked is, what could I do and which way should I take the rest of my precious life? And so I try to prepare it in a way that I think is a little extraordinary. This is my dad's studio. This is the most centered place in his life, his little slice of paradise. And I watched him work in here for over 50 years and loved every second of his coin collections and his famous insulator collection, and my first gun's hanging right there on the wall, and his big model ship that he built in '80, his last great effort of his life. And then I wanted to show you the desk. I don't know how long this beautiful old desk has been in our family, but every drawer is full of treasures. And his famous old little piggy bank right up there. And I remember sticking my nose in here when I was 6 years old, and I can still remember the smell of the ink in my dad's sporting goods store. And I built him this glass case for Christmas present when I was in down school one time. I didn't have much money, so it was do something, and it ended up in a pretty neat spot in his life. And then his little special coin box from the post office, and his shotgun's sitting here in the side cabinet. What I hope you'll do is dedicate a spot in your life, a discovery studio of your own, that then will eventually become your most centered place. And as you go through this list with me, materials and ideas, and especially watch the people who are participating and playing with us. And as you start trying to zero in on the success mountain that you're going to climb, pay attention to those whispers. Listen to those intuitive moments that are coming, I think, from all eternity, saying, hey, Lou Jensen, maybe what you ought to do is go that way, okay? I hope this helps. The most amazing fact for me out of all of this is that it's just turned into more than I ever dreamed it would to begin with. And I think that's true for all of us that are participating. It's just starts out from such simple beginnings and then turns into more and more and more, and we go on from there. It was Paragrave to begin with. It became Paragraphics when we added sandblasting. Then when the internet came along, we shifted it to Profitable Hobbies. It's the evolution of our, what I call our power list. This is kind of how we've grown along the way. And it's just impossible to measure how significant a really valuable idea can actually be in your life. You're just zooming along down the road, the freeway of life, and then all of a sudden you hit an intersection. Wouldn't it be something to see an exit sign like this? The intersection, opportunity and inspiration this way. And then being able to adjust your life so that you can actually take advantage of it. Every one of these guys started out as pretty ordinary folks, but they're not ordinary anymore. They're all extraordinary individuals, and it's been just a joy of my life to grow up with them and grow old with them. They've all done incredibly well with their lives. And probably the greatest secret of the I&E network is we're doing it together. It's one thing to do it on your own, and it's another thing to really get involved with people who are climbing the same mountains of success that you are, engraving, sandblasting, airbrushing, and now screen printing. I'm convinced that the hobby that I stumbled onto is the fact that the best things in life are handmade anyway. And I suspect that will be the cause and crusade of the future. As intelligent machines take over, handmade things should get more and more and more demand. So the thing while you're going here through this with me right now is to watch for your own concepts, the things that interest you the most. But don't misjudge it, even from simple beginnings, something as ordinary as a carved eggshell. You can't show me anything more worthless in the marketplace than an eggshell. It's Mother Nature's packaging, and yet I've turned it into my entire life and my living. On my 37th anniversary, I just did a sculpted pattern, and I've got that DVD out now on how to carve a $100 an hour eggshell. And I filmed it start to finish. So if you want to see something unfold right before your eyes, it's a rather exciting occasion. But it's which way do you take it from there? Once you stumble onto an idea, knowing your pathway, knowing the direction that you're going, and figuring that out ahead of time is really a significant deal. This was the very first eggshell design that I carved. I didn't know what else to do. I just cut little round holes in it. But to go clear from that moment to now, the second you find an obsession in your life, something to do that you love doing, you never work another day in your life. And it affected my own individual life dramatically, but it's gone on now and affected other people's lives. And that really startled me at first. Brian has just taken eggshell sculpting to a whole new level. He just won Utah State Best Artist Award. I think this is his 6th time he's won it straight. And to begin with, didn't realize what he had. Didn't realize he had all this ability, and now look at where he's gone with it. And when I get these kinds of people, Keith Hone, our first master, and Brian together, and we trade ideas, man, some powerful things happen. One of Brian's pieces was featured on Microsoft the day they introduced Bing to the world. Brian was on the plane headed to Bulgaria, and this was featured on their main website that day. Pretty impressive stuff. One day he will be famous for what he's doing. But so will Tammy Sievers. Tammy has just found all kinds of ways to excel with her artistic skills and ability. And her work is getting more and more and more unique. And in our 7-step program, we try and help a person go from an amateur to a master of something. And a lot of our successful people now are published artists, authors. And when they start uncovering the fact that they can do this kind of amazing thing,
This one was featured at a Denver charity auction. It has a very unique layer here that's a jewelry kind of layer. These are actually little crusts of platinum alloy on the surface, and this was featured for the cover of the brochure for the auction, and it was the final piece to be auctioned off, and the auctioneer tipped it and fell over on the table and and broke it. And oh, when Tammy called, I just could have died for her. That's just one of those really tough moments, but these things happen, and then we find out what kind of person you really are. This is a 65 karat citrine, and Tammy's carved relief intaglio carving with the high-speed equipment, and that would be just about impossible with any other tool. And so there's a whole world of gemstone carving laying out there for somebody else to go after. We got a lot of requests early on because the equipment will mark and put identification numbers on automotive glass and automotive parts and all kinds of tools and equipment and furniture. And so we came up with a concept called Identigrave, and one of our people in Los Angeles Basin does all of NBC's, CBS, and ABC's property. Everything they purchase is marked and identified. And it often leads in such unusual directions because we try and encourage you to charge about $60 an hour for a minimum 6-hour day, which is $360 to protect and mark anything for a school or a business or an organization. If they save one theft, they've paid for that. And one time I was called by an attorney who, at the local high school, a kid had got his hands and fingers tangled up in a saw. And the attorney asked me if I can engrave, remember to use safety gear, right on the table saw itself. And so a kid could have at least the same responsibility involved. And so I went in and engraved that, and then I talked him into engraving a set of tools from the automotive department. And right after that, a whole tool set was stolen from the school. The principal called me and was so upset because they're not sure if anti-theft marking will actually work. And then exactly 1 week later on Monday morning, he's coming back into school, and somebody had left the toolbox sitting right in front of the front door, waiting for the door to be unlocked and for school to begin. They had returned the set of tools that had been marked. So there might be some potential right under your nose for anti-theft marking. One of our biggest areas was one of my first areas to get involved with is carving guns and doing knives. This is the one I did for my dad. I did a little engraving on this muzzleloader for him, and it's hanging on the wall of his office to this day. This one I did for the director of marketing for Browning, to Satori. And all of that got started because my brother had a patient who had messed up his muzzleloader. He'd chiseled it out here with an X-Acto knife and kind of ruined the stock. And so he asked me if I'd come in and try and save it, and I didn't know what to do. I just went in there and roughed out a bear and then did some little details on here. And it's almost embarrassing to show you this at this point, but that's where we all start. And then it goes on from there. You get better and better and better at it. Nellie is on eBay. If you go on eBay and look for her, she does pistol grips, and every year she's up the ante. She's just getting better and better at the work, faster and faster at the work, and her prices are going up and up, which is the entire theme of the business plan. If you're going in the opposite direction, then you're just not handling things well at all. Keith Hone, talk about him a lot, can't ever brag about him enough. No one has brought anything more into this perspective and picture than Mr. Keith Hone. One of his earliest pieces here. But oh my gosh, we've taught over 3,000 people now how to do our high-speed power engraving. And when someone can take an existing checkering pattern and replace it with something as dramatic as this on a stock, boy, the world starts paying attention. But even something as simple as this, Keith takes this is actual sagebrush, cut with a bandsaw, and then sanded and finished on the surface here. Then the name is cut and carved into the material. And we kind of carve backwards. We finish things first and then do the relief carving in this direction. And what a great giveaway. What a fun thing to give somebody that you're rolling into their individual life. And as your creativity flowers, Keith, this is Keith's signature piece. This is the one he's most famous for. You may have seen it from time to time. Marketing miracle, because he doesn't have to do all the work on the tail. Kind of fun. So unusual kinds of designs and patterns is something he's famous for, but he's also famous for this ivory inlay process. He's the one that came up with the idea. There's a lot of others claiming they thought of it, but I watched Keith Holm bust his rear end for 3 years trying to figure out how to do this in a finished surface. Everyone knows how to put it in raw wood, but not many know how to do it in a finished wood. And then along comes his son, and Craig has just excelled beyond anything we ever could have imagined. His work and his skills for 15 years now at a really high level of professional sculpting, and also teaches this class around professional three-dimensional. You start with patterns and do one dimension, then 2 dimensions, and then you just can't resist going after full sculpture. And Craig is also licensed a whole bunch of patterns and designs, so we can teach you how to take a design like this, make a transfer film, and then put that pattern wherever you want to carve it. Same thing here on a piece of bone. So really just a lot of times you'll need some help to learn some of the new skills, but I'd like you to know that we're out there and can literally help you learn. And that's just getting better and better. So as you spot your niche and begin to decide which way you're going, this is a $70,000 fireplace. This is the clay mock-up that Craig did for a beautiful new home in San Diego last year. And then Joe Cummings comes along, and Joe's been a metal building and barn contracting guy for years, did really well in that career, but getting a little old to be throwing cement around anymore. He started carving, and I told him to go enter it in the state fair, and he won best of show, and that just kind of all it took for Joe. He just went crazy from that point forward. This was a gun he did for a neighbor. He got $1,000 for his very first gun that he carved. But the work and the excellence of what people start out with the patterns and then begin to really discover both how productive it is, but also the options that might be in their own pathway. Jose Valencia has become famous for doing what we're doing, and no one more determined. Jose and I laugh at each other now because he wanted out of his career as bad as I wanted to get out of dentistry, and that's a great motivation. That keeps you going a lot of time when you may not do it otherwise. Got a great image in the marketplace, and is a published carving master artist. What we try and help you target is these upscale customers. I was here this day. We were in a gun show together, and this old boy showed up from Tucson, and he literally ran off everybody. He says, now everybody just leave for a while. I got some business to do with this young man. I got some more guns that I want engraved. And no, I've forgotten his name, but I was so determined to never forget him. I've never met anybody more eccentric. So when you have something that you can do and do it well, and then begin to learn how to trade it in the marketplace, some really magical things can happen. Just don't question yourself. Just don't shoot yourself down before you even get started. He started with the world he knew. His family had been making cabinet doors and doing finished carpentry for 4 generations even. And so this is kind of where he started. And this design is just a really tight pattern, drop relief carved in with the high speed. And Keith designed these little grip guides. They help hold it like a router so you can control it better as you get older, and you get a little more jiggle in your hand, trimmer in your hand, you can control the drill better. But then this is an overlay, and it's just exactly the opposite approach to the decoration and the production of of a door panel. But this is drop relief. So this is a pattern stuck on, outline cut first. And so you shape this first and then come in and do a little carving on the background. Let me show you another example. These are outline cut overlays. Both of them. Outline cut and sculpted and then put in place. But look what we do here. This little shadowing, stippling background technique. Oh, that just makes them look like $1,000,000. And those are the little tricks of the masters. These are the people that have just really spent a lot of time and then invested their talent learning to do this kind of work. And in 1992, Greg was our first world champion and has won the world title as many times as anybody anymore. And Tamika and I were up one time at his studio. He was carving these pieces here. And my daughter didn't realize this bird was real until it flapped its wings and we practically had to dig Tamika's hands out of the ceiling. She had fingernails. She was really shook because she didn't realize it was the real one and the copy. But Greg has basically captured their personality and is without question one of the finest bird and falcon carvers in the world. And that has become his obsession. One of my other obsessions is baseball. And so I watch for opportunity in my life continuously, something I could get involved with or mixed into. And so when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were doing the home run derby, you'd have to be an idiot not to see what was about to happen. So I did honorary commemorative bats, and I gave them to Kenny Mayne at ESPN Television, and they were then presented by Kenny Mayne. And it's so cool to get involved with things like that. Helps your name and reputation go along. Then Bill Clinton stepped up to the plate and was trying to help settle the baseball strike during his era, and I came up with the idea of doing a great big presidential big stick model. You've heard of that line of walk softly and carry a big stick? I've done them for every president. Every president's got a baseball bat since. And then Don came walking in my office one day, and he said, Lou, I had a heart attack and I had 5 bypass surgery over the holidays, and the doctors wouldn't let me do anything, but they would let me carve. And so he started carving door panels, second door panels from a cabinet maker, and he would put scripture quotes on them. And he says, but I started getting so much demand for it, I finally decided I'd better start charging a little bit. But the demand kept going up, so then he raised his prices dramatically. And he says, you know, it's the craziest thing. The more you raise your prices, the more the demand goes up. Isn't that really an interesting phenomenon? We shouldn't give our work away too much. I have done a bazillion plates. I really like them. They're alder. We have them turned for us as a company, but you can find people that can do this for you also. Alder's a little harder wood than the softer pine wood, so start in a little medium to hard woods as you're learning to carve. But stick to things that you like and enjoy. If fishing's a big deal for you, then let's go right here. If scouting's a big deal for you, then let's go right there. This is a mail-order catalog, French Creek Sheep and Wool, and this was their front cover, inside cover of their magazine, and I put it on a plate for them. And then Tammy did this for the Olympic Committee in Salt Lake when Utah was going after the Olympics. I think this was Utah's first bribery gift, actually. And it was a plate at the dinner that night in Europe, and then the Utah delegates said, you can take this home with you tonight as a thank you from the city of Salt Lake. Very big order for her and her daughter. Any of the niche markets are incredible. Finding stuff that has anything to do with the golf industry, and I usually will put the title of a country club in their individual name. That goes over really, really well. This is a Native American artwork and graphics, so any choice of any line drawing and high contrast image makes a good option for engraving and carving. I've got all kinds of designs and all kinds of quotes, and it just matters what you're trying to accomplish in the marketplace. Stick to those areas that you know a lot about, and then play within that circle. And I've done 50 years worth of scouting, so a pen and ink outline high contrast image of Baden-Powell goes over really well in the marketplace. I was at the National Boy Scout Jamboree, and Spielberg had come as a special honorarium, and I carved a walking stick for him. That's my work right there. There's a beehive up here, and I inlaid the mother's pins in here, and then carved some leaves all down through it. And the next morning, he's on the cover of the local newspaper, national paper actually. And my buddy came over and says, "Golly, you're lucky." And I says, "Lucky? I stacked the deck. I really do try and do everything I can think of to help make the marketing work out as well." So during my term as vice president of the council over scouting, and 55,000 boys and 18,000 adult leaders, and these were my training awards and thank you gifts in that 5-year period. And I guarantee you, this is a pen and ink drawing by Baden-Powell, in the last paragraph from the last letter he ever sent to scouting, his signature right here, and this little trail sign of going home. This really touches a nerve with a lot of scouting people. But you can do it for Mother's Day, any kind of niche that you can find. And this is just a paper towel. That's a little flower off a paper towel, and I outline cut it. Then see how I burn it a little right in the middle with I get a little tiny alcohol torch that just is perfect for doing that same kind of thing. The National Committee asked me to do a gift for Louise Mandrell. Barbara had been hurt in her automotive accident, and then Louise said she would come in and do the National Jamboree for her. And so I am able to produce these extraordinary thank yous in pretty limited amount of time, get things done and get it out and cover the base for them. I've always enjoyed doing stuff for Eagle Scouts. Kid gets Eagle Scout, I can put their name here and the date they got their Eagle Scout, and this is a verse that I wrote about persistence, the great gift of becoming an Eagle Scout. But even complex designs, this was a patch for a huge jamboree they had. 500 or 50,000 kids came to this jamboree, and I just duplicated the patch, because you can outline cut all this through a finished wood surface and then come back in and just fill in the paint spots so quick. I bet you we can carve and finish this 100 times faster than anyone else can. And that's productive in the marketplace. Jeannie is kind of famous in our circles now. She was a truck driver for all her career, work career, and she started carving and engraving. She's extremely good at it. I think her profitable hobby is she's retired now and has her gorgeous home cabin in the mountains of Utah. I think her last gun was like 2,800, I believe. She carves roses on guns, and they are the most elegant gifts you have ever seen. And why not? Guns and roses goes together, doesn't it? I think. I like to take on anything unique. And this is my carving of James Christensen's College of Magical Knowledge. And I've never quite gotten it done, but I always enjoy working on it. This one is one that I have finished for the university. Hangs up in their newest building, their new $25 million building in the founder's room. And it's kind of a one-of-a-kind piece, and I like doing those kinds of things. Jack has got his studio going. His son was in the military and in Iraq doing a lot of stuff, and so he was carving all kinds of thank yous for his boy. Then his son asked him to do a table for a general, and this is a world map of all the places this guy had actually been stationed. What a neat thing to do. So when you've got a relationship like someone in the military service, there's a whole world here that you can go after. And it is a big one. Keith, like all of us, didn't start out knowing what you could do, and we learned to do our art and our carving with clay and claymation. And he loves his deer that he's doing right now. It's just wonderful, wonderful pieces. But he's spent an inordinate amount of time teaching. We just have had hours and hours and days of teaching and helping other people learn to do it as well. And then along comes his son Craig. This is an 8-inch thick black walnut door on a $4 million home. It's just a staggeringly gorgeous, gorgeous piece. But when we can extend our learning curve and help you develop your learning curve, then you're going to not do amateur stuff. We've got to get your skills a little higher than ordinary. And Craig is one of the better ones at teaching and helping people learn what it takes to really sculpt and do magnificent things. But then it spilled clear over even into the cousin and his son. Al is Craig's cousin, and Cade is his nephew, and they're the leading Western furniture designers in the whole silly country. And their work is just extraordinary. This piece here was, I think they sold this for $85. Well, that's what they were asking for it, at least. And for them to get to a point where this kid is one of our youngest masters now, can go on and do really well and get confident in their skills early, yeah, grief, it's hard to even imagine what he's likely to accomplish as he goes down the road. And then there's Jim Sigg, the famous Jim Sigg. Jim is passionate, crazy, obsessed with doing knives, custom handmade knives, and he does such an interesting and beautiful graphics on everything he does. And he has a tremendous program now of doing something unique, custom-built knives like this and learning to engrave, power engrave. Jim has a great training program, and you can find him on the web as well. This is a hard story. Sarah's our first master that we've lost in our organization, and worked out of Dallas, Texas, was a commodities broker, one of the fierce female commodity brokers in the history of Texas. Started her custom engraving business and met Ross Perot and began to raise money for large corporations, and oh my gosh, there wasn't anything this woman wasn't willing to go after and try. And she's the one that lit the fire of the hand engraving or the training programs behind the company. And we will always give you, Sarah, some blessed thank yous and credit for what you brought into our world. Whatever you really like, if a high-end motorcycle world is appealing to you, then you ought to learn to do custom engraving for that world. There's so much in this world that's already cast and put on bikes, but what they really want is something done that's personalized just for them. Brenda is one of the leading custom engravers in the whole motorcycle industry. Has been doing it a number of years. When you're good at it, boy, the world really pays attention. I can guarantee you. So the idea is to start simply and then work up to where you can do some really, really magical stuff. I had done a lot with McMullen Publishing. Dick Deloche found me at a car show in L.A., and Dan Ledbetter, who was the editor of Volkswagen Trends, asked me to come down and do the engraving for this powder-coated Beetle. So I put some engraving in the back window, and then the article that came out about it, he says, I've had a cartoon draw, Lou, I hope you don't mind. Because I'm afraid as I was trying to finish my dental career, my brain was over here often. And so my 3-year period where I was still struggling being a dentist and then trying to make my custom engraving business perform beyond my dental career was quite a challenging time in my life. But just like Robert Lee, he's taken a great challenge and turned it into the rest of his life as well. Over 30 years ago, Robert fell out of a tree and broke his neck and is in a wheelchair, and you've never seen a more productive person in your lifetime. He's one of the nation's leading guitar builders now and uses all of his engraving and carving to do his marquetry work on them. Just finished a guitar for Emmylou Harrison. The thing you just don't realize, Robert's made guitars for practically every big name you even know. From Crosby, Stills, and Nash was his first major success in that world. And as you start out, you just don't realize sometimes where this can lead you. I came up with the idea of doing forever letters for the wedding world. So I'll take the bride's handwriting here and put her vows on one, and then the groom's handwriting and vows on another. I can take a grandmother's handwriting to her granddaughter and put it here. I can take a 4-year-old's letter to grandma and put it here. And we can either sandblast it or put it in with the high-speed engraving equipment and actually duplicate their actual handwriting. But this $80,000 page of free publicity was in Bon Appetit magazine, 4 million upscale readers. And I know how to get this for free, folks. And you need to learn how to do that too, okay? We have a whole world around us of what we call the priceless gift line, things that are just extraordinary in the marketplace. So you need to check us out on the web and then get in on the webinars with me every Wednesday night. Nancy Bryant and John were in Michigan and started a wedding business and just took over her whole life. Starts as a hobby and then becomes a mastery of something, and Nancy's one of the better ones that ever went into that business and that world. They've retired now. We went to Disney World. We go around and do a lot of president sessions and kind of play, and John got to ship their Viper down for the National Viper Convention, and so we were at Disney World with our cars, and awful lot of fun to have a profitable hobby. And perhaps the best is Ken Brown. No one has done more with this custom engraving concept than Ken Brown. He's the world's leading calligraphy teacher already, but then he has pulled the high-speed engraving equipment into being able to put anything on a bottle of wine or a bottle of perfume. We do a lot of custom engraving right at the point of purchase. And when you can sit down and just freehand crank it out on the glass, all of a sudden now you've really got something in the marketplace. So doing really kind of unique customs, he's a great writer, does the verses and then puts the patterns and does the engraving on, and he's pretty gifted at all of that. He sent me a verse a long time ago, my life was free of affliction, and though it isn't considered a crime, I have an incurable addiction. I live it, I breathe it, I dream it at night. Through my world of engraving, I frolic. My family's concerned, but I'll be all right. I'm a hopelessly hooked pureholic. And what Ken has discovered is that major retailers are having a nightmare with the internet. People come and find stuff at this expensive retail outlets, and then they go onto the web and buy it for half that price. And so if the perfume world begins to realize that we can engrave something on a bottle of perfume right at the day of purchase, then all of a sudden they'll buy it right then and there. And we get paid at least usually 60 to 100 bucks an hour for a 6-hour minimum day. And boy, that just changes everything. And Ken charges for his training program to teach you how to do custom engraving. But what's a part-time job that would range over 50 bucks an hour worth? Think that through. There's just a ton of potential here. And not, like all opportunities, people just don't see the opportunity until it's passed by. Then everybody can see the opportunity. Early on, I ran into a lot of occasions where someone would want the same exact thing done over and engraved 30, 40, 50 times. And if you're going to hand engrave something and duplicate it, that's really challenging. So we started taking a long look at blasting, and most sandblasting stuff commercially is big and cumbersome and expensive and slow and messy as hell. So we started trying to figure out how to do it on a smaller and smaller basis. Because if you want to put something on a piece of crystal like this, you're really going to struggle with the hand etch process. But there is now a little vinyl film, a little microfilm that is photosensitive, and you can take a pattern, any pattern on your computer, and photo expose it onto this vinyl. Then stick that pattern right on the surface of the crystal or the glass or the stone, whatever you're going to put it on, China, and then blast with our little blaster. We made what we call a microblaster. So when we got to do duplicates of snowflakes on a bunch of crystal or wonderful pieces for someone, or maybe a piece for the Idaho National Laboratory, or these are patterns for Gloria does her own wine, and I've shot her labels on her wine bottles, and then we put in here Gloria Jean's Vintage right there. I do a lot of work for the real estate industry because they can do a thank you for being involved with us. Appreciate your purchase for this recent piece of property. But anything that you can make a photocopy of or scan it into your computer, anything in black is what will actually blast. So we make this pattern first on acetate, then we photo expose it onto that vinyl, then put the vinyl right on the surface and blast right through it. So a pattern, even something as intricate as this, we've got a whole book full of designs, and you can make a paper pattern from that, and then this is how it turns out when it's blasted. And this is, I put this on a piece of tempered glass even. And so any size, you can change the size in the computer, and then once you get it done on the computer the way you want it, you burn it into this pattern and blast it on the glass, and voila. And even something as complex and difficult as an award with this kind of graphic logo, from the 3-foot wooden plate that I carved it on now down to crystal books that I do for the university all the time. Just anything you can imagine, and we know where to get all these supplies and who to deal with. This is a gift to a daughter of my very best friend and patron. And when you get down to a point where you can etch something as delicate as this and then push it into the glass a little bit, that's what microblasting does. It's just give you the most sculpted look. And even one, I did this for the President of Norway, came over for a big centennial celebration and put the state of Utah flag here and the Norwegian flag here. But up in there, there's wings, feathers in the wings, and these little stars all through there. And just, that's a little tiny blasting pattern and image and would be normally really difficult to do. But as you watch for occasions, the 150-year centennial of the pioneers coming to Utah, that's a big deal for a lot of people. And when you can discover an opportunity like that, this put on a piece of glass like a paperweight or doing it on river rocks, oh my gosh. Talk about having a major moment in your life. And then if you watch for these occasions where entertainment or show people and celebrities are all doing things like this, it doesn't take much to take this. See that crystal book, how beautiful that is? And it's pretty good size, and I can put anything on here for church groups or for education. There's just a ton of opportunity with it. But the one thing it does extremely well is small graphics. There's a very famous old prayer in the Mormon Church about the dedication of Jerusalem for the return of the Jews. And I did the largest crystal piece I've ever done was that prayer on a big, huge slab. This is inch-thick beveled crystal. And I put the patterns in the corners and then put that prayer all down through there. Now, once you get that stuck on and glued on the surface, then all you've got to do is hit this right here and spray over it in your dust cabinet, and bingo, it will come out just like this. I put this up closer so you can kind of see how I deep cut. See, I can still sculpt here, so we maintained the pressure of a big blaster, but brought it down into a pencil size so that we can actually control it. And my friend gave this to one of the heads of the Mormon Church, Boyd Packer, and he had it put in the study center in Jerusalem. It's going to be in the entranceway in Jerusalem from now on, and I'm very proud of that my pieces end up in some very significant places in people's lives. Every year at Christmas, they take the Washington, D.C. temple, and some dignitary comes and turns the lights on for the Christmas holidays. And I talked them into giving a piece of crystal out each year. And we can order these pre-done. They're all ready to go. Then you just etch on here what you're going to etch. I don't usually charge other than what the glass costs me. I make my money for putting the pattern on right there. Did a lot of thank yous for the state of Utah, for the governor, when we had the Olympics, with all the trouble Utah got into and that whole deal. We had a lot of thank yous. And when you can put something this complicated on a pattern and have it work out, oh my gosh, does it begin to get productive for you. And the best part is there's nobody competing with you. I'm still trying to find out this young man's name. I met him in Denver, and he does a lot of this beer mugs for the taverns in the Denver area. And he called me one day, and he said, Louis, I just bought an 80-acre ranch, paid cash for an 80-acre ranch in Nebraska. And I'm thinking, how else would you be able to succeed like that? He says, I can live anywhere I want to live and still keep my contracts and still keep my business. And boy, that's a dream come true. And it's a matter of personal expression. This kid's in the San Francisco Bay Area from Russia and has developed his skills and ability, does a lot of custom high-end work for large-scale homes. There's just no end to it. If you notice the kinds of companies that we do work for in Ferrari, you'll figure out who this should be sold and done in the marketplace for. And so then if you look around you a little bit, Ron's one of our masters, has learned to do the calligraphic engraving from Ken Brown, and he just happens to live in the Boca Raton, Florida area. And when you suddenly discover that this is really appropriate in the higher-end custom-done marketplace niches, man, it starts getting motivating. It's just almost irresistible to give it a try. And it doesn't matter if it's bone or ivory. We've got a lot of people playing with high speed on bone and ivory too. Between eggshells and ivory. This is a piece of scrim-shanded work by Steve Lankern in Alaska. And Steve's out on that island chain that goes almost back to Russia. And yet he can live where he wants to live too. You can get out there in the marketplace and play with it. What better thing to do with the remaining years of your life is find something you dearly love doing and turn it into a little business. Don't make it work again. Do it something that you can actually do and that you can actually enjoy. This is a journal I do. I'm doing a journal for each of my kids, and this is fiddleback maple. So I get really exotic woods, and then I put my signature on it, and then usually do a carving, and then I've routed the whole inside out. So it's going to contain thoughts and ideas from Dad to my grandkids and kids. Gary's one of our better stories. Came up, took classes, we taught him how to carve and got him going with Keith Hone. Now I told him who to approach, a couple of designers in the Scottsdale area, and all of a sudden, one of them called and said her client that owned the Hormel Meat Company bought $1 million bottle of wine. That is $1 million bottle right there, and he needed a casket for it. And out there in this world somewhere is a very, very expensive hand-carved casket. And Keith helped him carve it and design it. He did the work, and then I helped him price it. And what a way to get started. Once you learn, know what to do, then you can go on from there. But generally the beginnings, even like learning to carve something relief like this, it is not what you think. And you look at it and tell yourself, I could never do that, you are wrong. There are some really slick ways to learn how to do this stuff. And we have been at it for 35 years. I'll bet you we can help you get started too. Booker's a good pal of mine. We've been friends for years now, and Booker's gone into the gourd art carving world, and oh my gosh, he's done so well, as have quite a few others. Kevin Simpson's one of my other really great stories, works for the energy business, and he's a diesel mechanic, and oh my gosh, he's busy. But when he gets his time off, he's out doing custom engraving for all over the place. Just finished a piece for the governor of Wyoming, and that helps build your name and reputation. Those kinds of things are really good projects. I'll never forget Danny Wayne Scott called and said, I wonder if I could make a living carving gourds. And this one I think sold for 20 grand. Really, really done well out of Indiana, as has Marilyn Sunderland, another master. And developed her skills and her ability till it's just unbelievable how good she's gotten. But each person has a different look. You start out mimicking other people's projects, but sooner or later you'll start developing your own style and your own look, and that's what we really concentrate on if we're going to market anything. Mary is on the web with her work, and the Smithsonian saw her work and bought 2 of her gourds. I think they were $3,500 a piece. So she's on permanent display in the National Botanical Gardens. And one day I'll have to tell you her story of what she did when she bought her drill. It's a cute story. Remind me and I'll tell it to you on the webinars. But from that, gourds to stones, these are a couple I did for my mom. She got a beautiful garden out in front of her home, and she liked these kinds of rocks in her life, so we did a lot of that. But I like to sandblast just about anything. I like fairly smooth rocks, not rough, porous rocks, but once you put that pattern on, that purple stuff, and then shoot it right through that, you just can't miss. It's just amazing how well it works. I've told you often about having a good time is my job, and that moment that changed my life. Literally said, you know what? I found something that I love doing, and I am going to stay right with it because that's what works. Sharon Ross is disabled, and Utah helped get her studio up and running, and so we did this carving for Huntsman. John was one of the candidates for the presidency, and he was governor at the time, and so we went in and made a special presentation to him. Steve Willey is a disabled veteran, and the VA is just helping him get started. And so there's just almost no end to the opportunity once you decide to somewhat go after it. I don't know of anybody that can sit in their studio and have the world come and find them. Bill Janney got started. We came out and did the training with Keith. We got him all going, but man, has he taken it a million miles since that. I think he is rather pleased with his profitable hobby, and I am my briefcase. This was my thank you at the Masters Conference in Las Vegas a few years ago. And then Bill Janney, or Joe Cummings said, hey, I think I can do stuff like that. And this was his briefcase for the winner of the Kentucky Derby. Pretty interesting custom piece for $4,000, huh? This is his stagecoach that he finished. Got $10,000 for the walnut carving for a fireplace mantle, and then has duplicated in bronze and sold 4 more pieces of bronze of the same pattern for $5,000 each. So he's now made 30 grand already off that piece, and he's got quite a bit more he's going to be able to do. And then Brittany Diamond came up and took our airbrushing. So engraving, sandblasting, and then airbrushing, they're all 3 great graphic art hobbies, but they all 3 make money. And this 12-year-old, this was her 3rd day. She airbrushed Johnny Depp that picture in the 3rd day, and it's just, gosh, she's done well since then. It's just not what you think. It's done with patterns again, and most people don't know how to use an airbrush overly well. Lon Neville is one of our masters in the program and worked for Delta Airlines for 35 years, and then all of a sudden discovered he really did have some serious artistic ability. This won the national competition in the art magazine for drawer, one of the leading drawing artists, top 28 people in the country to watch. Here's my first shot at doing chrome. And I guarantee if I'd have found out about an airbrush before I'd have discovered that high-speed drill, there might not have ever been a high-speed handpiece. I love to airbrush. But so's Tamarie. This is her first shot at airbrushing. Pretty good, don't you think? And you know, see these water droplets here? There's no tool on earth more fun and easy to use than an airbrush to do those kind of details. You may know Tammy. She's the one on the phone for 30 years helping people on our network get the equipment and then get it started and get it operational, and has sustained people for her entire career. but she's also an extremely good artist, and she's beginning to discover just how good she can be, because we got a lot of programs to help you learn to develop your art skills and go on from there. She decided she needed longer legs, so she's given her a little more room here and going to add a little more room right here. Kind of fun, huh? And then Doc's down by San Antonio, Texas. This is a fireplace out of mesquite. Got $10,000 for that, and lifetime hunting privileges on the guy's ranch. Mickey Lee won his first time at the World Championship. And we can offer a lot of coaching and a lot of advice and a lot of counsel because we've got quite a bit of experience over the years. So the main thing is kind of trust. What do you already know, and what have you done in your life? This is Norm Forbush. Norm's an old scout and buddy of mine, and we've been friends for a long, long time. But he worked for the Utah Park Service, and he photographed petroglyphs everywhere he went for his whole career, and now he can just duplicate those petroglyphs on all kinds of gifts and awards and thank yous. And all you need is something like that. When you retire and want to grow old and play, it's really amazing the kinds of things that can happen. Now, if you decide to shove your skills as far up as you possibly can, and you want to kind of build a bonfire underneath your name, there might not be a better example than Buster and Julie Warinsky. This knife, Queen of the Nile, sold for over $1 million. They had another $1 million knife. Their first one was the copy of the King Tut dagger, over 30 ounces of gold in each, and sold for an absolute Greek fortune. Now Buster passed away, so now these pieces are even clear off the chart expense-wise. And if you can see that someone else can do it, then maybe there's a possibility that you can actually do it. And that's what I preach. That's what I try to help you see and understand. But the thing that separates it is this little fortune cookie I got a long time ago. If you're going to make it work, there's got to be some serious dedication and commitment on your part, not convenience, okay? We've got to run it like a business for a change. And people think, well, if I run it like a business, that'll ruin the hobby. And I'm going, that's just baloney. The better you get at things, the more fun you have. And if it's something you love doing, then you never work. It doesn't feel like work to me. Dentistry, that was work. And learning to fish, if you get really good at fishing, it's one of the great joys of your life to learn how to sell your work. Don't give it to somebody else and have them go sell it. Let's teach you how to sell it. If you can learn to do the artwork, you can also learn how to make the marketplace work. Do not believe your upper-end educational teachers in college that say, no, don't learn the business. That's wrong counsel. That's bad advice. You can learn to do it and sell it yourself. You really can. Make it a decent business for yourself. I don't know how many thousands and thousands of these little wooden coins I've carved with somebody. Maybe I've even done one with you. And I put the pattern on here, and we trace the outline of everything. And then I go in and I sculpt one leaf, and I let them do the other. In fact, this is on the web. This is on YouTube. So go look it up, find it. I show you how to actually carve it. I have lit a lot of fires in people's lives with this one little tiny example, because most people don't think that I've been doing this 30 years, and they're just barely getting started, and they still can do really well. And I call it Doc's Hatchery for a reason, because we really are taking ordinary folks and turning them into exceptional miracles, extraordinary people. I'll bet you that that's you right there. The undiscovered you. A dream worth living for. It really has got such a fun potential once you start to discover that you can actually do it. But can't build a reputation of what you're going to do, okay? Get the equipment, get some training, pick out one of the other masters that you want to follow, and learn what they did. How did they go after it? We did a show together, and I grabbed a picture of all of them together, and these are our more famous, our superstars in our organization. And Darwin worked for Sears for 38 years, and Cade's one of our youngest members, and then his uncle Craig is one of our most successful artists now. And I think you can do that same thing if you just make that your target. A few years ago, this is my trade show gang, and we were doing a show in Sacramento, and I said, come on, we got to go get one of those fun dress-up cartoons and photograph things. And I have always been fascinated with Butch Cassidy and Doc Holliday, and Doc Holliday is a dentist too. Did you know that? And this guy is a veterinarian now, and these two boys got together and built a huge software company and sold it and made a bunch of money. But the whole idea is whatever you get into here now, make sure, promise me that you'll do your best to keep it fun. And one day, let's get you into this master circle with the rest of us, okay? You got to believe in yourself and all that you are, and know that there is something inside of you that is greater than any obstacle. Don't shove that thought off into anybody else's life. We're talking about you here, okay? Out of one of these products, or the whole set, with engraving, sandblasting, airbrushing, this great little graphic art business is just about impossible to beat, because it's a moneymaker, as well as an awful lot of fun to learn how to do it. A few years ago, I ran everybody out at the time out front and says, we got to get a quick picture of all of us. And to have taken a concept from an ordinary carved eggshell to becoming a really significant thing in the marketplace, to me, is still the greatest advantage of everything we're playing with, because we depend on each other. And the alliance between what we now call the Inspiration Encouragement Network started a long time ago, but I think we're in a good position to perhaps help you start as an amateur and grow up through the master of something, okay? There's a lot here, but there's an awful lot for you to participate with. And I guarantee you, all of eternity would aim you in a particular direction. If you just listen to your soul, it knows the way, okay? Thank you, and good luck.
I haven't seen that in a while, so I decided to throw it up tonight and run through some concepts that I've played with for years, things that I didn't think had any potential at all to begin with. And I'm just confident that's how it is for you as well. This year is up to you to squeeze something out of it. We're all going to consume every minute of our time. We're going to live another year. We'll burn up those hours and those minutes, and somehow the years just, all of a sudden, we'll be at the beginning of 2017. And to me, the only person on the planet that's going to get anything out of this for you is you. It just, no one else can come along and do this for you. And surrounding yourself with the people that are trying to do the same thing, trying to accomplish more with every day, more with their planning, more with their training, more with their techniques, more with their equipment. Everything that it takes to kind of achieve a little bit more out of it is our job. It just can't, no one else can do it. I had a lot of fun with these university professors today. They're all artists, and they're all the heads of the art department for the university. And we talked a great deal about hand-done artistic kinds of things, and that the general quality, the more you zero in on the skills, it's the most interesting thing. Most of these are masters on the program with me tonight too, and if you ask them, every one of them will say every time you touch the equipment, every time you go after something, you learn something new, something more. Keith and I were just constantly baffled at the fact that we had tried to do everything we could think to do with that drill for 30 years, and still, every time we pick it up, there's something new. And with Keith's new carvings he's doing right now, my gracious, he's opened up a huge new door. So as you take it on and trying to figure out what now more can I do, take tonight's show really personally and write on your mirror in your bathroom with a Sharpie, attitude. And for this next week, try and measure your own attitude. Try and look and say, how am I doing? Is there anywhere I can improve my general attitude about what I expect? Because I think that's right there's where the rubber meets the road. Your attitude of what you get out is really, really close to what you expect. The one guy asked me today, we were driving home in the university van, and he says, Dr. Louis, he says, what do you expect to happen with Mr. Solomon's collection? And I says, I have dreamed for a long time that collection will land in the middle of a university, our program, where it can be used from now on to motivate, train, and teach and encourage other people to also develop their skills to that level. And when I'm legally in a position where I can show you the incredible glasswork that Jack's collected, $12 million worth of hand-etched crystal blanks that are just staggeringly beautiful, and somebody challenged themselves to the point that they got literally that good, and they were using lousy equipment. I mean, just not, if they had the power pen, wow, geez, we would increase their productivity. But they did it anyway. They figured out how to do it and kept at it and nudged their own skills and their own interests. And I don't care if it's writing and producing something. I don't care if it's learning how to take videos. Ron's busting his butt in the direction of how to produce shows and do things on the internet and the social media stuff. All of this is a challenge. Most everything every day I bump into something I don't know how to do. Except if you'll say, instead of telling yourself your attitude is, I can't learn that, or I can't do that, and I've never been able to accomplish this, this, and this, then that negative slice of your attitude keeps you from going after it. And yet if your attitude is such, you know what, damn it, I've learned everything else that I've faced in my life, I'm going to take this on. And as you do that, to me, that's the reward of living. It means from as is world to better, you are nudging your life in the direction that you want to take it. Well, we've overdone it tonight a little bit, but I wanted to see that whole show through again. I did it quite a while ago, and I haven't seen it for quite some time, so I thought, well, I'm going to inflict all of you while I sit back and kind of look what we put together as an overall pattern or a ordinary miracle. And maybe an ordinary miracle's due for you in 2016. So any comment or something you want to add to it? We've really overdone it tonight, but I'm just hammered. It's been a long, challenging day. Appreciate you coming in and sitting down and going through things. And anytime we got a lot of people watching the shows outside now on YouTube and on Google Plus. So for anybody out there, if there's anything in that I talked about through this period of video, the idea was to touch some one button, some one thing that you go, you know what, that's what I need the most. And
Yeah,
to
we'll
me,
do a little something.
that's all eternity trying to tell you there's something important now for you to do. Yeah, Mel.
Okay. You see this? That was a serving spoon.
Yes, sir.
Ah, darn it.
Ah, darn it. Try it again. Plan B.
Okay. You see the inside.
Uh-huh.
We'll come around this way.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, just exactly that. Isn't that fun, Mel? Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
turn the
You
handle
know something,
into a
my
bail,
friend? Yeah,
and it can be worn as a necklace.
necklace. And I have never carved the backside of a spoon. That's one I've never done. Keith will be so proud of you. There's just almost no surface out there that you can't etch or engrave or carve, huh?
That's right, and this is stainless.
If you need a piece of stainless to be a bracelet to help you, an emergency bracelet.
Yeah, Oneida's got a bunch of nice stuff already made up that you can make jewelry out of.
Yeah.
And you can engrave it all. It's just, the sky's the limit.
That's absolutely
Depends on what you want.
play with too, isn't it?
Just hold my coffee and watch this. Don't spill it now.
Well, I got to do a sign with that. I love that, love that concept immensely. Anything from anybody else? Great to have you on tonight. Yeah, Joni.
I want to tell you I sure do appreciate you showing and saying all the things you did tonight, even though I've heard all of it for a long time and everything. But unfortunately, my health hasn't been very good this past year, and I have really sunk back into a la-la land.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have to admit, I am going in the morning, I'm going to start back into it again no matter what. I've got age against me and I've got my health against me, but by gosh, I'm going to make it.
Well, and I still think, Joni, I've watched you for years. You've done the same temperament. You'll take things on even when it's a challenge. And I don't know anybody that doesn't have a handful of issues to struggle with. We all seem to have some things work out and then some things don't work out. But when you come back to it and come back to it and come back to it, that's all I've done. I made every mistake there is you can make in business. But I have stayed with it. And we're now 38 years, and I've started gathering stories. I'm going to put together just one fun book that tells the story of it all for between now and the 40th anniversary. And I expect to live another 10 years, I hope, and then I can be around for 50 years of this. And to me, the overcoming stories are the best ones. People that face just such incredibly challenging circumstances, but they still found a way to make something work. And that has to be the theme song of my shows for 10 years. Yeah. All I'm trying to do is help you get more out of your doing than probably what you started out thinking you could do. And as you see you're making progress, oh my gosh, there's just nothing better than that. And this professor asked me today, he says, well, what do you expect, Lou? And I said, I'm an entrepreneur. If it won't work one way, I guarantee you I'm going to try some other way. Isn't that what you're doing, Joni?
Yes, I sure am. As I said, the one thing I've had against me lately is my age. But I had the feeling, oh, I'm just going to give up, and I'm not going to do that.
Good girl. Good girl.
I'm going to tomorrow. I'm going to start off all over again.
We're all hollering and rooting for you, babe, because that's what it takes. That's where it always starts every time. Personal commitment to say, you know what, I'm going back to the well and I'm going to drink till I can't drink anymore.
Yeah.
Good girl. Way to go. All right. And we got it recorded now, Joni, so next year we can go back and...
You would
I'm
have
sorry.
to
I
get
shouldn't have said that. Good night, everybody. I got to get some rest. I have been just a long, long day. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Thank you for your participation, and make yourself a promise. Put it on your bathroom mirror with a Sharpie and just put it right smack in front of your face every day so you remind yourself that thoughts really are things. The decisions do make a difference. No decision is still a decision. So go for it. Good night.